So, you want to play Chroma. Chroma is one of those frames where you look at them from the outside and they don't seem to have much going on, but there are a lot of hidden synergies in his kit that you should know if you want to get the most out of this frame. I've been playing this frame for a long time, easily still my most played frame, and I've already put out a few build videos on this channel. However, today, instead of a specific build, I'm just going to be going over what works on this frame, what you should be using, and how you should be playing them. So hopefully, if you've never played this frame before, you'll learn something useful. Getting right into it, I'll give a quick rundown on the abilities and augments. Your first ability, when you tap it, will change your element, which can be situationally useful depending on your build. And when you hold down this ability, it does a channeled flamethrower. This, however, does incredibly low damage, and the augment for this ability is capped at 500 damage. So I don't recommend the augment, and the only reason to really keep this ability is if you want to swap elements. Now, Elemental Ward will give you a damage radius and a buff depending on your element. Heat is just going to give you static damage around you and a health bonus. Electricity is going to give you discharge damage and a shield bonus. Toxin is going to be static damage and a reload bonus. And cold is going to be damage reflection and an armor bonus. The elements you'll be swapping between the most are usually heat and cold. Those are generally the two most useful buffs from this ability. And the augment for this ability is useful for a support playstyle, as your allies will keep the buff for the duration that you have, even if they leave your radius. Vex Armor is an extremely simple ability, but it's also very powerful. This ability gives you a huge additive bonus to your weapon damage and your armor. You stack this ability by either taking damage to your health or shields, or getting kills with your melee or ranged weapon. Vex Armor has two augments. The first one is Vexing Retaliation, and when I used it, it seems to only do 1 damage, so this honestly could be a contender for one of the worst augments in the game. To contrast though, we have Guardian Armor, which is easily Chroma's best augment. It gives your allies damage reduction, it gives you healing, and it makes it so you don't have to recast your Vex Armor as long as you're getting kills. Finally, we have Effigy. This ability, when you cast it, will cut Chroma's armor in half, and it will spawn a turret that does relatively low damage, but it also distracts enemies. The main use for this ability is that within its radius, credit drops have an increased chance by 60%, and credits that do drop are increased by a bonus of 100%. And the augment for Effigy, called Guided Effigy, basically allows you to move your effigy around. It does do a little damage and energy regen, but I honestly don't find it that useful. If you want to move it, you can just recast. Now, with a kit like that, how are most people playing Chroma? Well, they're just using him for Profit Taker. Chroma's Effigy credit doubling works on Profit Taker, so if you drop the Effigy where Profit Taker drops the loot, you get double credits. If people using him this way are bothering with a Subsume, they're either probably using Nourish or Empower. Most people using him for Profit Taker are just concerned with getting as high as possible Vex Armor bonus, which means building a lot of strength. Which, don't get me wrong, this is an effective way to play Chroma, but it's not the only way to play Chroma if you've seen my other videos. For this kind of build, Nourish is generally just a good ability as it gives you more energy and viral damage. And Empower is also really good here because the cap that Vex Armor has is dependent on your ability strength at the time of casting. So Empower is going to give you a sizable increase to your armor and weapon buff. So moving on to other playstyles and subsumes that are good. Vex Armor doesn't buff your ability damage, but there are several abilities in this game that are coded as weapon damage that will get buffed by Vex Armor's damage bonus. Nullstar is one that I've talked about before that works really well on Chroma, but two others that I found really good are Pyrotechnics and Breach Surge. Both of these get significant damage increases from Vex Armor. Pyrotechnics is extremely spammable and will put out a lot of heat procs, and Breach Surge's sparks are going to be hitting for several million damage easily. Now, there are countless mods and arcanes in this game that work well with Chroma, so I'm just going to talk about what you should run on Chroma and basically never take off no matter what build you're running. Guardian Armor is the obvious one. It's easily Chroma's best augment. Huge quality of life buff. There's pretty much no reason to not run this. There isn't a Chroma build that doesn't use Vex Armor, and this augment just makes it so much better to use. Next up, Arcane Persistence. This is a new arcane, and it's been hugely impactful for health tanking frames. And outside of Inaros, Chroma is one of the best users of this arcane. It requires no additional investment into Chroma because you can hit the armor requirement for it just with your abilities. It makes staying alive in the highest level content easy. And another bonus is since you have no shield, you're directly taking health damage, which means you're getting your Fury buff when when you get hit by enemies, which just lets you stack it that much faster. The only reason I could see you not run this is for Ultra Boss content, where they seemingly design these bosses to specifically make persistence not work, where they have tons of magnetic damage and tons of nullifies. But for 99% of the content in the game, persistence is the go-to. And if you're running Arcane Persistence, you have to run Hunter Adrenaline. Hunter Adrenaline gives you energy when your health takes damage. Arcane Persistence takes away your shield. It's literally the perfect synergy, and this will give you all the energy you could ever need for Chroma. So I think most mods and Arcanes can change around when you're doing different builds, but these three things should pretty much always stay on. They just simply give so much value, and they work with most builds. Now moving on with weapons, there's only really a few interactions of note. The biggest being glaives, and for whatever reason, Vex Armor's damage buff double dips with glaive heavy throws, meaning that damage buff gets applied twice, which can lead to some funny numbers. So the obvious Glaive Prime, Falcor, and Zorus, which are already incredibly good melee weapons, just hit for insane damage on Chroma. Other than that, we have the Velox and the Grimoire. And like I said before with Empower, your Vex Armor cap is dependent on your ability strength at the time of casting, and both the Velox and the Grimoire allow you to temporarily increase your ability strength to get a higher Vex Armor bonus. So if you don't need your secondary weapon, definitely take one of the two. So I've told you what works well on this frame, but now, how do you actually play Chroma? Well, that's the easy part. No matter what build you're running on Chroma, as a frame, he's completely defined by Vex Armor. So it doesn't matter if you're trying to stack Vex Armor to 2000% to get the highest possible weapon damage bonus. It doesn't matter if you're trying to nuke with a glaive. It doesn't matter if you're trying to ability spam with Null Star. You always just have to stack your Vex Armor. Playing this frame, you'll really come to find that he's just defined by this one ability. And I wouldn't call him a bad frame. In fact, I think he's quite good, especially with the new arcanes. But you can argue that he's not an interesting frame. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you've never played Chroma before, I hope you have some idea of what works well on this frame and what you should be running. I didn't want to give any specific builds because I already have build videos on this channel. I just wanted to dedicate this video to what you should run on this frame to get the most out of them. So yeah, if you're planning to play Chroma, I hope you took away something from this video, and other than that, thanks for watching.